Hey guys, Snowflurky's Emos here with another Master Duel deck profile. Today I am bringing you my Fire Warrior deck that I've put together. One of my favorite decks that I have in paper ever since Blue Flame Swordsman came out. I've had a fascination with Fire Warriors. I always thought this card looked really cool, and I really enjoy the Gemini cards. Just in general, am very thankful that Konami decided to make this some sort of strategy that is playable, which is pretty cool. Now I will say in Master Duel, this deck is not pretty accessible because all the Fire Warrior stuff, especially these hollows, are locked behind the Legacy pack. So that means you're going to have to actually craft a lot of these. Not too many times you'll get to actually open them up. But I figure it's one of my favorite decks. It wasn't so bad, so I spent the dust for them, especially because in my paper Fire Warrior deck was actually my first video on this channel to get over 1,000 views. So thank you everyone. I just had to put together a list. Now it's not the most optimal list, but it's decent. Let's go into the card by card. Starting with our monsters, I'm playing 2 copies of Sublimation Knight. Definitely going to bump this card up to 3 and cut Blue Flame Swordsman down to 2, but I haven't spent the SR on the 3rd Sublimation Knight. But Sublimation Knight is a monster that says if the card is normal or special summoned, you can equip a Fire Warrior or a Gemini monster from your hand or deck to this card as an equip spell. That gives this card 500 attack, making it an 1800 attack monster, and that's nice. Pulls a monster right out of the deck and equips it to it. Then if this card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card while equipped with a Gemini monster, you can special summon as many of those Gemini monsters from your graveyard as possible as effect monsters that have gained their effects. So we got 2 nice Gemini monsters in here, Evocator Evic and of course Phoenix Gearfried, both of which are great targets to equip to it because if Sublimation Knight gets removed, these cards are getting special summoned. But sometimes we just want to equip our immortal Phoenix Gearfried just to get it into the grave, which is pretty nice. Because that makes this card pretty accessible to get out. Um, Definitely something cool to note. So any target, whichever target you're looking to pull out of the deck, definitely equip the Sublimation Knight, and it's awesome. Definitely want to see this card. So next I'm playing 3 copies of Blue Flame Swordsman. Going to switch it to 2 after I bump Sublimation Knight up once. But this is a nice card just to have because it helps enable OTKs and also is a nice monster that when it gets destroyed, um, can pull you a Fire Warrior out of the grave. So once per turn during either player's battle phase, you can target another warrior type monster that you control. This card loses 600 attack, and if it does, that monster gains 600 attack. You can use that to get out an extra 600 damage during a battle phase, which is pretty nice. Sometimes the difference between an OTK or not, as long as you attack with Blue Flame Swordsman first, then when you attack with another monster, give Blue Flame Swordsman attacks to that monster. And then of course, when this card is destroyed by your opponent's card, by battle or card effect, and sent to the graveyard, you just banish this card from the graveyard, target a Fire Warrior type monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. That includes any other monster in the deck, which is nice. Can pull out Phoenix Gearfried, and most importantly, can pull out Immortal Phoenix Gearfried from our grave, which is pretty sweet. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Evocator Evic. This is a 4-star 1500 attack monster that is a Gemini monster. Gemini monsters are monsters that are treated as normal monsters while face up on the field or in the graveyard. And then you can normal summon this card while it's on the field to have it become an effect monster with its an effect. An interesting mechanic that was made during the GX era and has always been a bit of a flop, but I'm a big fan of it. So if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a Fire Warrior monster or a Gemini monster in your graveyard, except Evocator Evic, and special summon it. So that's pretty nice. Also gets out any of our other monsters from our deck, which is pretty sick, and definitely something we want to have. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Phoenix Gearfried. Phoenix Gearfried is a card that says it's a Gemini monster, so treat it as a normal monster while on the field or in the graveyard. And then, of course, you can normal summon it to make it a Gemini monster with its effect. Do note that for a large monster, when you Gemini summon it, you don't need to tribute monsters again once it's already on the field. If you're playing it from the hand, of course you do. But if it's on the field, you do not have to tribute monsters, so keep that in mind. Its Gemini effect is if your opponent activates a spell card, you can target a Gemini monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. Pretty nice. Could be Gearfried, could be Evic. Both are good targets. And then, of course, if your opponent activates a spell card, so it gets that effect. And then, of course, during either player's turn, when a spell or trap is activated that targets a monster on the field, you can send a face-up equip card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So overall, pretty solid. And last for our monsters, I'm playing 2 copies of Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. This card, we can banish an equip spell from our field or graveyard to special summon this card from our hand. So if it's in our hand, that means we can summon it with by banishing whichever card we equipped with Sublimation Knight, which is pretty cool. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks, you can equip a face-up monster on the field to this card, max 1. So that's pretty nice. That's non-targeting, non-destruction removal, always good to have. And it gets 500 attack, making it a 3,500 attack monster. And then when a monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can send a face-up equip card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So even as a monster negate. So just a really powerful boss monster, can remove a monster in the battle phase without targeting or destroying it, can negate a monster effect, just pretty awesome. And as we've seen in Fire Warriors, these cards are really recursive, and that includes the Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, truly giving him that immortal name. That's it for our monsters. Going into our spell cards, I'm playing 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army as a level 4 or lower warrior monster from our deck to our hand. Sublimation Knight, Blue Flame, Evocator, whichever of those you need, you grab it. Next, I'm playing a copy of Terraforming. This adds a field spell from our deck to our hand, and the field spell we are, of course, adding is Catalyst Field, which we are running at 2 copies. Catalyst Field says, each turn you can, a level 5 or higher Gemini monster you normal summon can be summoned without tributing. So that means if we have Phoenix Gearfried in our hand, we can just drop it on the field for free. And then during our main phase, we can normal summon a Gemini monster in addition to our normal summoner set. Which is pretty awesome. That's, means we can summon a Gemini monster and make it its Gemini effect on the same turn. Once per turn, you can target a card your opponent controls, banish a Gemini monster you control that is treated as an effect monster and has gained its effects until your opponent's end phase, and if you do, destroy that card. So, you just remove a monster off the field, destroy a card, and then you get it back at the end of your opponent's turn, and it returns as a non-effect monster, particularly nice with Evocator Evic, because we can Gemini summon it, use its effect to bring back Immortal Gearfried or Phoenix Gearfried, something bigger, and of course with only 1500 attack, maybe it's better to just banish it off, destroy a card, and of course it'll come back on our next turn where we can Gemini summon and special summon another Fire Warrior. So that's pretty sick. Next up, I'm playing a card of Demise. Interesting card for me to run in this deck. As you can see, this is a very trap card heavy deck. Not a very combo based deck as far as making a good extra deck board, so I'm kind of opting out of that strategy entirely. Card of Demise draws card until we have 3 in our hand. Also for the rest of this turn, our opponent takes no damage. During the end phase of the turn, send the entire hand to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 card of Demise per turn, and we cannot special summon during the turn you activate this card. So this card's pretty nice because, Catalyst Field giving us 2 normal summons means that if we have a Blue Flame and a Phoenix Gearfried, we can summon them both just off of normal summons, which is pretty nice. And card of Demise, most of the cards we're going to get are trap cards, or maybe something like Ultimate Phoenix Gearfried, which we want to send to the, we want to send to the graveyard anyway. So it's a pretty good card to have in any track-based deck. Next, I'm playing 3 Pot of Duality, excavate the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 to our hand. In exchange, we can't special summon. So, yeah, not a big deal if we're already turning that off with Demise, and not a big deal if we are using Catalyst Field. Kind of a slower burn deck. We're not comboing off a bunch of monsters. So I'd rather have consistency pieces to get us our key floodgate or something that's going to win us the game. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, banishing 3 to 6 random face-down cards from the extra deck. We draw a card for every 3 that we did, so we banish 6, draw 2, can't activate any more draw effects. Well, we're okay with Pot of Greed. And that, of course, is it for the spell cards. Going into our trap cards, I am playing 2 copies of Fake Trap. Fake Trap is a trap card that just says you can only activate this card when your opponent uses an effect of a spell trap or effect monster to destroy trap cards on your side of the field. Destroy this card as a substitute for those trap cards, and the other traps are not destroyed. If a set card would have been destroyed, pick up and see the set card. So this is kind of a budget option where normally I'd play something like Waking the Dragon in this extra deck. Fake Trap is just rare, and our trap cards are very powerful. We want to protect them, so having a copy or 2 of Fake Trap to deal with Harpy's Feather Duster or blind back row removal is pretty nice. Next up, I'm playing a copy of Ring of Destruction, just a card that during the opponent's turn, target a face-up monster our opponent controls whose attack is less than or equal to their life points. Destroy the monster, and if we do, take damage equal to its original attack. Damage is inflicted to you and then your opponent. You can only activate one Ring of Destruction per turn. So this is just a nice card I'm throwing in here as a one of because we're playing 3 summon limit in this deck. So, you know, when our opponent has summoned some monsters, we can well time that if they've used 2 summons and have gone maybe into 1 monster, I can hit Ring of Destruction and then chain summon limit to it. So I remove their monster and then their board is completely empty after I play summon limit. They can't summon any more monsters, and as a result, their board is open for me to attack them directly. Pretty sweet. Playing a copy of Lost Wind, we target a face-up special summon monster on the field, negate its effects. Also, its original attack is halved. And then, of course, if a monster is special summoned from our opponent's extra deck while this card's in the graveyard, set it but banish it when it leaves the field. So nice because it recurs, nice because it negates an effect, and nice because it has the attack. All pretty useful effects. Pretty decent. Next, playing 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. Target up to 2 spells or traps on the field and destroy them. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. This card's kind of handy in Master Duel. There's a lot more back row decks, a lot more spell and trap cards in the best of 1 format. And this is just a trap card that destroys 2 for 1 card. And that's pretty nice. I like it. Comes in handy. If you don't like it, you can sub it out. Next, I am playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Just a nice card to have. We are playing lots of continuous trap cards and things that we need to keep on board, and Solemn Judgment is a good way to do that. We pay half our life points to negate a monster summon or a spell or trap card activation and destroy that card. So if they're going to out our floodgate, like say Skill Drain or Summon Limit, and you know, go off to the races, we can just say no, and then they still have to play under that restriction. Next, I am playing 2 copies of Skill Drain. An interesting inclusion in this deck, but a handy one nonetheless, just because once things are going and we have a Phoenix Gearfried or Immortal Phoenix Gearfried on the field, these are really high attack monsters, and frankly, turning off our opponent's effects is often a game winner that I'm alright turning off ours. Their effects are probably better. And, you know, if we have Gemini Ablation, we're getting out big monsters anyway. So we pay 1,000 life points to negate the effects of all face-up monsters while they are face-up on the field. Do note that that means Gemini monsters aren't treated as normal monsters. They are just effect monsters that have their effect negated, even if they weren't Gemini summoned. But, of course, you can still, you know, summon Phoenix Gearfried for free under Catalyst Field because they are still Gemini monsters. And what's nice is Blue Flame Swordsman does still work after Skill Drain, so you kind of want to wait to play Skill Drain until you already have Immortal Phoenix Gearfried or Phoenix Gearfried in the grave and ready to recur with Blue Flame, or Gemini Ablation ready to go and start pulling your big monsters out of the deck. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Summon Limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. That's often the max we'll be able to summon in this deck on a lot of turns, so it doesn't hinder us, and summoning, you know, stopping opponents from summoning more than 2 turns shuts off a lot of decks, especially a lot of good decks. So this card can just outright win you game, slows the game down a little bit enough that your effects are definitely more powerful, and you can handle the monsters your opponent are summoning, which is pretty cool. And last for traps, I'm playing 3 Gemini Ablation. Pretty sick card. During the main phase, you can discard a card to activate one of these effects. Either special summon a Gemini monster from your deck as an effect monster that has gained its effects. So that can pull out Evocator Evic or Phoenix Gearfried. You know, Phoenix Gearfried first if we don't have one already. Or Evocator Evic if we want to pull a Phoenix Gearfried or Immortal Phoenix Gearfried out of the graveyard, which is pretty awesome. Or we contribute a Gemini monster, and if we do, special summon a Fire Warrior monster from our hand or deck. So we contribute Evic or Gearfried to become Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. Good way to pull it out of the deck. And then if the attributed Gemini monster was treated as an effect monster, you also destroy a card on the field. So pretty cool. This card is just awesome because we turn excess cards or dead cards, maybe Phoenix Ultimate Immortal Phoenix Gearfrieds that we want to get into the grave, into just a monster pulled straight out of our deck, and we can do that during either player's turn, which is pretty nice as long as we have the card in hand. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Gives it a little negative synergy with Card of Demise, but you just wait till you draw on your next turn and you can discard that card for a monster if you would rather have it. So that is it for the main deck. Not much to talk about for the extra deck. I would recommend you go into some rank 4s or just some basic link stuff because you do have some level 4s to make 4s. You could do level 8s because Phoenix Gearfried are made. Or if you had Waking the Dragon, you could do a Waking the Dragon package. That's mostly what I have in here. But your extra deck is mostly going to be extravagance fodder. So, you know, keep that in mind. You know, just some things that you might find handy and have in your Master Duel collection. I wouldn't worry too much about spending dust on this. Additionally, I also want to talk about that in the future, I'm probably going to be experimenting with Gemini's Lore Gold Knight in this deck. While not a Fire Warrior, is just handy because it's a Gemini monster that can add a spell or trap from the deck to the hand that mentions a Gemini monster in its text. That would include Gemini Ablation, and this card is so important that that honestly might be really worth it. Something to really consider. So you might be seeing an update on this deck in the future once I've figured that out. So here's a replay to show the deck in action. We are going first against our opponent. Looks like a solid hand. Sublimation Knight, Duality, Extravagance, Fake Trap. All pretty good stuff. Let's see what goes on. So we're going to start by playing Pot of Extravagance. Get some extra cards or bait out an Ash Blossom. We are going to get 2 cards. Unfortunately, not great cards because even if we get Catalyst Field, not extra monsters we're going to be able to summon. So we're going to go into Sublimation Knight. I want to get Immortal Phoenix Gearfried online, and I think I can last a turn. So I'm going to Pot of Duality for an important card, especially if it's Summon Limit. But I see Skill Drain. I'm going to grab Skill Drain over Solemn Judgment because I have the Fake Trap to protect Skill Drain if it's destroyed. And of course, I'll just be setting the cards. As long as Skill Drain sticks, I should be able to stop my opponent from OTKing me. They, of course, are going to summon Infinitrack, which is, you know, there can be some problematic cards in here, but it does have an effect. We're just going to go off and negate it right out the gate. Now, this is the kind of thing that's a problem. They're going to summon their big Freight Train, and it's going to have a lot of attack. So Freight Train comes out. Its attack goes back up, of course, because of Skill Drain, and we lose our Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. That's fine. I want it in the graveyard anyway. I have Blue Flame Swordsman ready to go. So they're going to, of course, attack and attack me again. And, you know, set 2 cards. This is where my Heavy Storm Duster is nice because those 2 cards are just gone right out the gate. Very nice to do. Now on our turn, we are going to normal summon Blue Flame Swordsman, go straight into battle phase, crash into their Infinitrack. That is going to destroy both of us, which is handy because now Blue Flame Swordsman can banish itself, summon the Immortal Phoenix Gearfried from my grave, which I can use to remove Heavy Freight Train, which is pretty sweet. I got another trap card that I'm going to set. A 3000 attack monster with Skill Drain, Fake Trap, so they can't even out it with Harpy's Feather Duster. They're going to need Cosmic Cyclone. They, of course, are going to set a card and play their Outrigger extension. Not going to do them too much good. We're going to draw Extravagance out the top, which is nice. Going to get us 2 more cards, all of which are pretty nice. We are going to use our Rhoda to add Blue Flame Swordsman. Will be very handy in case our Ultimate Phoenix Gearfried gets removed. Going to summon Evic. Doesn't have a lot of attack, but we got to start poking down our opponent. And we're going to pass over to them. Our opponent is going and not making any plays. Doesn't seem to have anything they can do right now. We, of course, will be summoning Blue Flame Swordsman now because with his attack, we have enough to close out the game. So there it is. So that is it for my Fire Warrior deck. Again, a deck that I really love. I just really love the look of Phoenix Gearfried, and all these cards are very cool and, you know, supports a trap card based playstyle. Not a very strong deck, but synergizes well with some trap cards that can make it a lot stronger and net you a few wins playing casually on Master Duel, especially in the lower ranks. This deck's perfectly fine for getting myself from the start all the way through gold. So, you know, I've enjoyed it very much. So let me know what you think. I'd love to know if anyone else is playing anything with the Fire Warriors. And of course, there'll be updates on this deck to come, including an update to my TCG build. I appreciate you all checking out the video. I'll catch you in the next one.